What if I told you there is a hut so cursed you could fall asleep in your own bed and still wake up inside it with no idea how you got there? That hut stands in the heart of a thick forest in eastern Nigeria. Nobody knows who built it. Nobody knows when it appeared. Some say it has been there longer than the village itself. Others believe it was never built by human hands at all, that it simply appeared one stormy night. The villagers call it the sacred hut, and everyone fears it. Hunters never pass that path. Children are warned never to wander near it. Even the oldest men in the village lower their voices when speaking about it. Because anyone who goes near the hut never comes back the same. People vanish. Farmers are seen in their fields in the morning, but by nightfall, their families find them seated lifeless inside the hut. Women fetching firewood disappear, only to be found later inside their faces twisted in terror. No one knows how they get there. No one knows why. One evening, 5 young men, Chuka, Ebuka, Seyi, Bala, and Nonso, sat drinking palm wine. Full of pride, they laughed at the village stories. Fear is for children, Chuka boasted. Tonight, we go to this so-called sacred hut and prove it's nothing but an old mud house. Despite their nerves, the others agreed. With lanterns and machetes, they entered the forest. The deeper they walked, the quieter the world became. No insects, no owls, no sound at all. Only the heavy silence of a place that should not exist. Then they heard it. A slow drumbeat. Boom, boom, boom. It seemed to come from deep inside the trees. They followed it until the hut appeared. It was small, made of clay and black thatch. Smoke rose from its roof, though no fire was visible. The air around it was thick, heavy, almost impossible to breathe. As they stepped closer, their lanterns died out at once, yet the hut glowed faintly, as if lit from within. The door creaked open on its own, and from inside, they heard a woman singing. The song was not in any language they knew. It was soft, ancient, and deeply unsettling. Without knowing why, their feet began to move toward the open door. The moment they entered, their courage drained away. Inside, the hut was larger than it appeared outside, much larger. Skulls hung from the ceiling. Pots filled with thick, black liquid bubbled though no fire touched them. The mud walls were carved with strange marks that seemed to move whenever they looked too long. At the center was a wooden stool covered with red cloth. No one sat upon it. The singing stopped. The silence pressed down on them. Then the walls of the hut themselves gave a loud, human-like scream. The boys tried to run, but the doorway was gone. By dawn, only Nanso stumbled out of the forest. His clothes were torn, his eyes empty. He spoke only one sentence over and over. "It called us by name. It called us by name." Days later, the other 4 were found inside the hut. They were seated in a perfect circle, eyes wide open, faces frozen in silent screams. They had no injuries, no blood, no sign of struggle, only raw terror. The elders warned the villagers to stay away, but it made no difference. Soon, people began disappearing from their own homes. A man went to bed with his family by morning. He was gone, and later found seated in the hut. A woman vanished while cooking her pot of soup still boiling, but her body was discovered in the hut the next day. The people realized something terrible. You didn't have to enter the forest anymore. The hut could take you from anywhere. Amaka, a journalist from Lagos, heard of the story, realized something terrible. You didn't have to enter the forest anymore. The hut could take you from anywhere. Amaka, a journalist from Lagos, heard of the story. She didn't believe it. With her cameraman, Kunle, and a local guide, Odogwu, she came to record evidence. They interviewed a survivor, a man who swore he had heard his dead mother calling him before finding himself inside the hut. Another said she simply closed her eyes at home and opened them again inside. Amaka was skeptical. That night she wanted to see the hut for herself. Kunle followed, camera in hand. Odogwu refused. As they approached, the drums began again. The hut glowed. They saw figures dancing around it, but when the camera light touched them, the space was empty. The door opened. A foul wind blew out. Inside, they saw rows of people seated, chanting in strange tongues. At the center, on the red stool, sat an old woman with white eyes. She looked straight at them and whispered, "You should not have come." The camera dropped. The screen went black. Weeks later, the camera was found outside the hut, smeared with blood. The footage ended just before the whisper. Amaka and Kunle were never seen again, but villagers swore they saw them wandering at night, knocking on doors, whispering names. The government sent soldiers to burn the hut. By morning, the soldiers were found seated inside, rifles at their feet, smiling with blackened teeth. A church held a prayer vigil. At midnight, half the people vanished mid-song. At dawn, they were discovered kneeling inside the hut, their eyes sewn shut with palm fronds. The village turned into a place of terror. Nobody slept easily. People woke up in strange places. Some swore they saw the hut's door glowing faintly on their own walls at night. The whispers grew louder everywhere. "Come inside, come inside, come inside." And then something even stranger began. Some villagers claimed they had entered the hut in their dreams. They sat on the red stool. They heard their names called by voices they loved, parents, children, lovers, even though those people were already dead. When they woke, their feet were muddy, and palm fronds lay scattered in their rooms. The hut was no longer just in the forest. It was spreading. One stormy night, thunder rolled across the land. The rain poured down, and the villagers locked themselves indoors. But the drumming began anyway, louder than ever. And then the whispers. Not from outside, not from inside, but from within their very walls. "You have seen enough. Now it is your turn." Some swore the mud of the hut began to form on their bedroom walls. Others saw the red stool appear in the corner of their rooms. And when lightning flashed, they all saw the same thing for a split second. Every house in the village was no longer a house, it was the hut. The storm raged on. The whispers grew louder. And then silence. No one knows what became of that village. But some say, if you ever wake up in a place you do not recognize,